Good morning, Jesse. How are you?
Great. Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Great. Yes. Thank you so much for coming. We are live streaming into the Mom Set and Go group today. And I gave them a little bit of introduction, but I wasn't recording. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to just introduce you and then start asking you some questions. Are you good with that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Hang on just a second. Well, I love this. I think that this was on your book maybe, but all right, moms, here's Jesse Harless. He's an author. He's a recovering loved one. And so he has been on a similar path as your child once upon a time. He was addicted to opioids and standing before a federal judge for narcotics possession, 22 years old. And he believed his life was over, but it was only beginning. That rock bottom moment led Jesse on an odyssey of following his intuition into the unknown, finding recovery and helping others do the same. If not you, then who is his book. In this book, he holds nothing back as he shares the raw devastation and miraculous triumph of his own addiction story. He discovers that recovery is far more than just sobriety. It's a lifelong journey of healing, growth, and transformation that requires consistent action. So, your story matters, moms, and your addicted loved ones. No matter who you are or where you've been or what you've done, nothing has been wasted. It's possible to co-create the life of your dreams, and the time is now. And welcome, Jesse. So happy to have you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, that was your words, I'm sure. I found that. And yeah, moms, if you could mute just so that we make sure we're not kind of stepping on Jesse's voice here for a little bit. So Jesse also coached my son, Ryan, after Ryan had been in addiction and recover. Well, he'd been in recovery for like a year, and we just felt like he was stymied, like he just needed something more. And I went out and I thought, well, first I asked him consent, Ryan, how would you like to work with a coach? And he's like, gosh, that would be great. And I'd be like, okay, well, I don't know one, but I got to go find one. And I found Jesse, and he met with Ryan first to assess, is this a good fit for him as well? And it was, and he worked with Ryan for 6 months and really helped him see things that there's no way that I could have helped with. And he's still continuing to grow in those areas where Jesse poured into him. But today, Jesse's going to talk to us about something called HeartMath. And maybe you can just give us a little intro about that and why you got interested in HeartMath and how it can help moms and our addicted loved ones and so on.
Yeah, sounds good. And it was definitely a great honor to coach Ryan. And it's always a pleasure to hear that he's continuing on. And I've seen some photos, so it's really exciting to see him back in the family and doing what he's doing. So thank you for your trusting your heart to reach out to me and coach your son. Yeah, so I mean, HeartMath is I don't know how many of you are familiar with HeartMath. You're all familiar with HeartMath? Have you heard of HeartMath before? HeartMath Institute.
So some of us heard about it because I had interviewed you about what moms can do. And you brought up HeartMath, and some of the moms were very inspired about learning more. And so that's what prompted this.
Yeah, so HeartMath is an institution that has a nonprofit and a for-profit part, and their nonprofit part is about research into the heart, and it's a lot of peer-reviewed science of the heart. And there's something called personal coherence that they have gone pretty deep in since the 90s. And personal coherence probably has been described in a way you're familiar with maybe like feeling in the flow, or even appreciation, a deep state of appreciation, flow, but the scientific term would be coherence. And coherence is an optimal state in which the emotions, the mind, and the heart are aligned and in sync. And so this is how do we get into coherence? I guess it could be the next question is, and we get into a state of coherence, and it's a physiological state. This isn't just some esoteric, intuitive thing. It's a physiological state, and you've probably heard of HRV before. So like HRV monitors, heart rate variability monitors, are huge. They're on your they're on your watch, your iWatch, they're on your Fitbits, and so what is HRV? So it's when your HRV is in this, what's called like a sine wave, like a perfect motion, almost like a perfect wave. That's when you're in a state of appreciation. That's when you're in a state of gratitude, or even calm and neutrality. We can monitor the heart with these devices that are now built into the watches and all these things. And HeartMath sells these devices too, called like the Inner Balance. And it monitors your actual heart when you're in a state of joy, gratitude, neutrality, or frustration, anger, resentment. It will show you actually on a screen, your heart, if you're in coherence, is a perfect sine wave. If you're in frustration, anger, it becomes this rigid points, just like this. And it's really interesting to see that it isn't just some esoteric thing. It is an actual thing with your heart. When you are in a state of ease and calm, you actually will create, not only certain hormones will be released and chemicals, neurochemicals, but you will actually feel in alignment and in sync with someone you're speaking with. So you can actually create coherence for other people with your own energy, just by being in a state of, and you might do this with, maybe you do some deep breathing, with yourself, and then you start to think about a time when you were with someone you love, or you're with a pet or an animal that you love, or a certain place you love to visit. These are things alongside breathing. Breathing is the other key component. It's not just thinking of something that is regenerative, like a regenerative feeling or a renewing feeling. It's also your breathing. And so the breathing is really important, and not just any type of breathing, heart focused breathing. So bringing the focus to the heart. So getting out of your head, or even staying in your head, but focusing that attention to the heart. So bringing it to your body. And this is a way to get into coherence in as little as 1 minute. And I've been able to do this with many large groups of people and see it happen. I've also have my mentors there into HeartMath, and I've watched them do it with 500 people or more in live settings. And it's really neat to see it. And it's been around for a long time. Most people haven't heard of it, but they've been around since the early 90s. So HeartMath is a company that has a nonprofit wing that studies the science since the 90s. And then they have a for-profit wing that sells the products. They sell the Inner Balance monitors to measure HRV. They sell trainings, resilience trainings. You can become a resilience coach. You can become a resilience trainer. You can become a HeartMath trainer. So I've went through some of these trainings, and I'll stop there and we can continue on.
Yeah. So, that's what I was going to ask you, because some of the moms know, like several years ago, well, when I first hired Jesse to work with Ryan, I wanted to know more about his resiliency training. And so he trained me on some of it, not specifically on HeartMath, but I've taken you through some of that training. But I love the fact that I guess what prompted you to want to learn HeartMath? And because, well, let me back up a second. Jesse was going into different programs in Georgia, I think. Were you going into the legal system or the jails and bringing training to there, and then you decided to implement HeartMath into that too? Or what prompted you to do it?
So what prompted me to get into HeartMath was I was learning facilitation skills. So let's call it a PhD in facilitation. I was learning through a company called Exchange. And as I was learning that, the leaders of Exchange won a bid, I guess, or became the lead facilitators for the HeartMath global event in Tulum, Mexico. So they were able to take over this event that's been going on for years. And HeartMath entrusted my mentor who runs Exchange to run their whole global event because they were really impressed by this facilitation. So I went out there as a co-facilitator and I got to meet the founder of, well, the president of HeartMath, the vice president of HeartMath, and then the director of research. So Roland McCready, Dr. Deborah Rosman, and Howard Martin. And I got to become friends with them because we were helping to create the agenda for the event. And when I was there and there was over 100 people, I started to learn about their technology. And then to step back a little bit, the seed had already been planted with one of my mentors, Greg Braden. He's been friends with them since the early 90s. And he started to lead heart math techniques on his show that's on Gaia called Missing Links. He started to share about this heart math. And I was like, what is this? And then I got to be with them, the actual people who run it, a few months later. So it's a giant synchronicity. And I actually got to facilitate on the stage because John had to leave and I got to facilitate part of this global event. And it was a really life-changing event for me. And what happened was I came home and I said, I'm going to do these trainings. And I started with their first training, which is actually for mental health counselors. And I have a master's in clinical mental health counseling. So they have an interventions training that is for like mental health professionals and doctors. So I started with that training and that gave me the science behind the heart math. And then from there, I went on to do their activating the heart of teams, which is more of like bringing it to corporate clients and even just any group, masterminds or your church or anywhere, but it's activating the heart of teams. And this was like the highest level training I could do to become a trainer and be able to bring in my facilitation skills into companies like Hubble. So I've worked with some big companies to bring in some of this heart math and they're all for it. And it's really interesting. And one of the reasons they're all for it is because this is already used in Fortune 50 companies and Fortune 500 companies. You just haven't heard about it. They don't talk about it, but it's used in police departments. It's used in the US Navy. It's used in the Columbia State Police. Like they're using this heart math and resilience training, and it's just not really known, which is interesting when I talk to the founders about that. But I think you're going to see a shift in the younger generations as they market it to them more to come into using this technology. And also, I've created my own resilience trainings, as Michelle has been through. So I've created my own resilience trainings that I train in the state of Georgia with the Fulton County Drug Court, one of the biggest drug courts in the whole country. I get to work with their entire staff. So investigators, case managers, everyone who's working with the front line of one of the hardest hit places in the country for addiction, poverty, all of it. And so we get to bring heart math skills. We get to bring facilitation skills all to this team that's working very hard on the front line in Atlanta, well, Fulton County. And I've also got to bring it to other entities too. But that's a few of the places that I started to bring it into after that. And now I started this journey at Heart Math in 2019.
Wow. What do you love most about facilitating? I mean, you're so good at it. I've been in your meetings. I continue to go to the exchange meetings because I also facilitate meetings with moms. And I always want to be the best. Like, I just want to continue to improve, but I'm just curious, like, what is it about facilitating? And it doesn't have to be just heart math, but what is it about facilitating that you enjoy the most?
Well, that's a great question. So, when I set out to be an entrepreneur, I was really banking on kind of like telling my story, coaching others, leading group coaching, but speaking. I'm going to say it this way, speaking at people, because that's what speakers do. They speak at people. So, and that's fine. And there's many really great speakers, But as soon as I left my job, I did the exchange training, and they showed me that you don't have to be the sage on the stage. You can be the guide on the side. And that clicked for me. I was like, that's what I want to be. I don't want to speak at people. I want to have them talk to each other. I want them to build community just by the way that I'm facilitating activities. And so really early on in my journey in 2017 of my entrepreneurial journey, I learned the art of facilitation. And so I've now since been to probably 18 of those trainings. And the reason why is because knowing how to do this, knowing how to get in front of a group and be able to move the strengths of a group and build communal capital, where they're actually not just building relationship capital with each other and connecting, and they're actually building community capital and knowing they're actually seeing the system in itself. They get to see who's in the system. They get to expand into the strengths of the system and the weaknesses, which is totally fine, and then get to see what can we create from here. And you can do that all with building psychological safety and all with building this collective universe of strengths that already exists to the people you're speaking at. And you can do that with facilitation. So what enamored me is that this facilitation with exchange was used with the biggest companies in the world: NASA, Walmart, Verizon, Cleveland Clinic, BMW, Facebook, Google. It was already being used there. And I'm like, well, I can definitely know that this will work at sober living residences, treatment centers, mental health centers, drug courts, and entrepreneurial masterminds and places I've brought it, and companies. And it has worked incredibly well. In fact, it's really just beginning, because I've, because the question is as a speaker or coming out and wanting to, it's like, I don't even look at myself as a speaker. Yes, I can get paid to speak, but I look at myself more as like a guide that can facilitate, that can really move a system through a process where they're going to want to bring me back. It's not just going to be like, oh, he moved my heart, and that's great. I did that for a very long time in recovery. But now I can work with a company, a team, a group, and they literally want me back. And that happened with Fulton County Drug Court. Is I worked with them for 1 year, and I wasn't even supposed to work with the whole team. I was supposed to work with just some peer coaches. But the director of the drug court said, can you run an event for the whole team? And I said, why not? And when I did that, he was like, oh my God, can we get you back the next month? And then they gave me another extension on the contract. So now I'm into year 2. And the reason why is because they're picking up the tools that I'm teaching through facilitation, so that when they go into their team meetings, they're bringing in these elements of the art of enrollment and building safety and how to actually move each other's strengths to be used and create the ideal future. So that's a long way of answering the
Oh,
facilitation.
it's powerful. I want to do that. I want to be able to do that. And our group is growing, but one of the fears I have is that, well, if we get a lot of moms in one room, am I going to be able to reach them where they need to be heard, or where they need their help per se? But you do that, and maybe you could speak into that mindset for myself, in that, how do I overcome that thought? Like, because I'm sure there were times, maybe there weren't, but I'm wondering if there was a time where you thought, oh, if we get too many people in the room, will I be able to reach all of them? Maybe you could speak on that.
Yeah, that's the big thing about this facilitation, is that whether it's 2 people or 250 people, it works every time.
Mm,
Now, if you're going to have more than, let's say, a certain amount of people in a room, then you're going to want to have a co-facilitator and it's someone to help with your tech, because a lot of this is done online. But when it's done in person, I enjoy it even more. But the online has proven to be extremely effective, and so absolutely, whether it's 2 people or 250 or 500 people, I've seen it work the same.
mm,
And it's just because of the way that the energy is being moved in the room with highly structured activities.
yeah.
And another way to call them is active learning cycles, is what we call them. So they're they're there for a reason. They've been here for a long time, these activities, and I've learned how to facilitate each one, and then I've learned which ones are the most effective, in my opinion, in the space of addiction recovery and mental health, and which are most effective in companies. So that's where you use your experience as a facilitator to say, these are the highest level activities I'm going to use with a drug court team. And these are the highest level activities I'm going to use over here. So that's where your experience comes in to say, this is what's going to serve. And that's why it's always about asking great questions. You don't
Right.
go into anyone's business or team or mastermind or group and say, here's what I think should happen. No, you ask great questions and they tell you what they need. And that's how you craft and co-create together the agenda and what will happen. Even if it's a breathing technique, even if it's looking at how can we build a greater future. You don't assume that everyone wants to do HeartMath breathing. You ask them great questions because they may already have amazing facilitators that do breath work. And that's what I've learned in the drug court. I
Oh,
think that I have all these self-regulation skills to teach. And next thing you know, I'm finding out inside already their team has amazing breathwork teachers. So I get to bring them in during the events to lead those activities instead of assuming I have all the answers.
brilliant, brilliant. Um, so if you take somebody through a breathing exercise using HeartMath, is it something that you can do with us right now, or does that take a long time, or is there something that you can demonstrate for us today?
Yeah, we can definitely go through a heart math technique. There's many heart math techniques. I would say there's probably like 9 heart math techniques that when you become a certified trainer, and they have a certified coaching as well, they teach you at least 6 of these techniques. And I've been able to do a couple of their trainings. So I have probably about 9 of their techniques that are really powerful. But I would say I can do one with you today. That is one that is a little quicker, and it's one I enjoy. It's called the shift and lift technique. And so I think that's what we can do together right now with our time, if you'd like.
Yeah, and so I forgot to ask Jesse, how much time do you have today?
Um, I'm pretty good on time right now. Yeah, I don't have anything until at least an hour from now. So that's about what I have for time.
Okay, well, we won't take that much time, but if it's okay with you and the moms, and I'd love for you to take us through an exercise, and then maybe we can have some Q&A after, if there's time for that. How long does the technique work or
Well,
take?
Well, so I'm gonna ask the group, would you like to have this technique done with music or without music? The music is not going to be vocals. It's just going to be, instrumental, but would you like to have music and not have music? So Brooke says with music. Anyone else want to have music? Because you don't have to. And that's the point of these science-backed techniques is you can do them anytime. You could be on a phone call with someone and you're getting a little flared up on the phone call and you can start to do these techniques in the moment. So
Oh
we
my
can use,
goodness.
yeah, we can
Moms,
use,
this is what we can do when our kids are like, we can feel our heart rates going up. Oh, this is great. Okay. Brooke
okay,
said
so
music, me,
music.
okay, music, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna actually test my music real quick just to hear the volume level, and then it's gonna be pretty low, but it should be loud enough to. All right, so let me just go ahead and you can all hear that music. Okay, so I'll bring it down a little bit, but okay, good. All right, so this is be probably about 5 minutes. So here's what I'm gonna invite you to do is I'm gonna choose to close my eyes for this, but you can keep your eyes open. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. Now I want you to begin to focus your attention on your heart. And to help, if you want to, you can put a hand on your heart, you can put a few fingers on your heart, you can put both hands on your heart. And I want you to imagine that your breath is moving in and out of your inner chest area or your heart. Breathing slower and deeper than normal. Just continue to breathe deeply into your heart. I want you to begin to activate a feeling of kindness, appreciation, connection, or an attitude of deep listening. If you're not able to connect to a heart feeling, I just want you to recall a time when you felt a deep connection to someone else. Maybe that was in the last day, last week, or the last month. As you continue to breathe deep into the heart, slower, deeper. I want you to begin to radiate these renewing heart qualities to raise your own vibration and lift the energetic field environment that surrounds you. So just allow yourself to radiate these renewing feelings to raise your own vibration and lift the energetic field environment that surrounds you. I want you to slowly start to bring yourself back and wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, wiggle your eyebrows. Gently and slowly begin to open your eyes. There you go. That's the shift and lift technique from HeartMath.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you. I felt like the shift and lift, I was seeing like sparks of energy, like electrical bolts. I don't know if I was supposed to, but that's what happened to me. Anybody have any questions for Jessie? Please feel free to unmute and share a thought or a question.
Yeah, and you can also put in the chat too, if you have anything that came up during that technique, you could put in one word in the chat and just say, you know, maybe that was calming, or maybe it brought me to neutrality, or maybe, you know, maybe I still feel frustrated, and that's okay. And that's the point, is this isn't about getting you to a place of being healed. It's just getting you to a place of realizing what's going on within you and just being honest and letting that out.
That's good. If somebody were to want to train with HeartMath or become a coach for HeartMath, I think they would just go to heartmath.com, or do you actually train a person now to do that too?
Well, you know, I don't work for HeartMath. I just love HeartMath. I love Deb Rosman and Howard and Roland McCready and everyone over there, and many of the trainers and coaches, just amazing people. So I mean, you could definitely just go to their website and sign up for one of their trainings. I mean, you could reach out to me, and I'm happy to share my experience. I do have my own trainings. You know, I have my own coaching, my own trainings that I do that, um, you know, they're more in the alignment of, you know, coaching is coaching, but the facilitation trainings I do are resilience trainings for teams. Um, they definitely involve heart math techniques. They definitely involve how the art of facilitation, psychological safety. That's what kind of separates me from a lot of facilitators out there, is because I've worked in the mental health and addiction recovery space for so long. I have this extreme emphasis, I would say, on psychological safety and trauma informed care. And that's what I see lacking in these spaces. So that's what I'm bringing in my trainings, is a really deep dive into psychological safety and trauma informed care. And yeah, so that's what it'd be like to work with me in these settings.
Awesome. Gloria said in the chat, her experience was calming, but also took her to a place where she was close to someone, almost unified with them.
That's great, Gloria.
Yeah, beautiful. And do you still coach people in recovery on a one-on-one basis, Jesse?
Yeah, I coach a few people because of the book I wrote last year, which is called "If Not You, Then Who." The book has my story, but also has a toolkit. So I've actually attracted people that I didn't think I'd be working with because of shame and low self-esteem throughout my recovery. You know, there were certain people who are very, very well-known people in the world, and they have come to me to coach, and it's really amazing because I don't have a great marketing, or I'm not on TV, but I've got people to work with me who, obviously I'm not going to say their names, but it's really amazing. There's some of the most successful people that we know have worked with me over the last year since the book came out, and I think that's really great. And so yeah, I've worked with all kinds of people, all different walks of life, but recently, because of the book, I've been able to work with people who, you know, we have to look at addiction in a different way, because addiction is not exactly how we think of it in the world at large. And so I've got to really learn some different definitions and viewpoints of addiction and mental health working with these clients. So it's been quite a journey, but I still do it. Yeah, I work with a few people still.
And
One on one.
oh, Gloria, did you have a question?
I did. I'm intrigued by the concept of psychological safety, and it immediately made me think of psychological terrorism. When I watched A Beautiful Boy, the movie, there's a scene where the son and the father are at a diner and they're speaking, and they're having an argument. And the father says to the son, "You're using psychological terrorism on me right now." And then I read a little bit about Laura Lee Rosano, and she said when she was in treatment, inpatient treatment, that they taught her that sometimes people who are suffering from addiction use emotional terrorism. And so that's what popped into my mind immediately. So I'm picturing psychological safety being like the opposite of that, where somebody is trying to manipulate you or control you by some kind of behavior that they're exhibiting. Could you talk a little bit more about psychological safety for me, please?
Yeah, I think, you know, I haven't seen that film, surprisingly, or read the book, but I've heard about it, and that's the first time I've heard of that term. And so I'm definitely now I'm intrigued to watch that film and hear more. But psychological safety is a term that was really made well known by a Harvard researcher named Amy Edmondson. And Amy Edmondson wrote a book called The Fearless Organization. And she talks about this concept of psychological safety as having certain characteristics and qualities. Number one, all voices being heard. All voices being heard, which is at the essence and heart of my facilitation that I've learned through exchange. That's really the point of what's called appreciative inquiry. And that's kind of another rabbit hole, but the psychological safety is number one. There's really two main factors, and there's others, but there's two main ones that I see is number one, it's all voices being heard. And number two, the willingness to take risks. Because once you feel safe enough that you're not going to be punished to share your voice within a group or a team or a company, you will take risks, and you will start to take more risks as you feel that being built as in a safe container. And that can happen in a meeting that's 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, or 5 days long. You can actually create that throughout a whole week's event if you know and understand how to do that. So that's really been the essence of my training, is learning how to do that and doing it from a lens that I come from, where I come from, which is trauma, which is addiction, which is mental illness, mental health. And so that's where I am real sensitive to that issue. And I see a lot of events get run, and I see trauma being shared, and there's not a safe space to process the trauma. And sometimes that's okay because that event wasn't designed for that. But for me, I watch it and I go, ooh, that probably caused trauma for more people. So I think just understanding that how, there's not, that's where you sometimes, when you get a prompt in your heart to do something, you want to explore it. Because for me, there's not a book written on psychological safety the way that I'm using it. So I think that's kind of where my next book is going to be, is going to have a chapter on my view of psychological safety involved with trauma-informed care. And that could be in companies too. I'm not just talking about sober living residences and addiction. I'm talking about in companies. There's so much addiction in companies. Oh boy, the numbers are extraordinary inside of companies with addiction. So yeah, so I hope that was helpful. That's the high level of psychological safety of those two points.
I love it. It's something that drew me right away into what you do. And when you trained me, is creating those spaces in our support groups where somebody feels psychologically safe to share and all voices be heard. But I don't know if I have it right. I just know I need more training, because because it matters so much to me that I want to make sure that I create those kind of places within our groups. And so I love the term psychological safety.
I want to, Michelle, sorry, I just want to, before I forget, I want to share that I'm running a free event, and I haven't done one all year. And I'm running a free event on November 29th. And on November 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern, it's probably going to go 90 minutes, at the most 2 hours. It's scheduled for 90. And this event is to talk about, wow, I can't believe that's next week. Okay, so next week at 3 p.m., I'm running what I'm calling the 101 Eye Care Workshop. And Eye Care is the International Center for Addiction Recovery Education. And so this free workshop, the reason I'm running it is because I want to talk about the trainings I'm doing through Eye Care, which involve trauma-informed care, psychological safety, resilience workshops, certified facilitator, and addiction awareness, which is to be brought into your team and companies or your masterminds. So it's an actual certification, accredited certification. It just won 2 awards this year. And so certified facilitator and addiction awareness, we go deep into some of these things. And when I say deep, we go deep enough that you have a nice foundation. And then we also are going to talk about certified professional recovery coaching, which is in the highest level of accreditation recognized by the International Coach Federation for professional addiction recovery coaching, to be used with any company, any person, anywhere in the world. So I'm running this for free. And so if you want to come and attend,
I'm going to be there. So that's
Tuesday,
Tuesday, right? A week from tomorrow, the 29th.
Next Tuesday.
3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right?
Yeah, here, I'll put the registration in the chat. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, and then I will also share that in the show notes for anybody who might be listening to this on the podcast or on YouTube. But and Brooke, interesting, she said HeartMath reminded her of chakra yoga. So have you ever heard that before?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm gonna actually share a link in the chat here. I just got to make it smaller. This is a very big link. So let me share
Okay.
the link to register for this free. It's going to be a Zoom experience. It's going to be very intimate. It's not a webinar. So you're going to be live with me on Zoom. So let me go ahead and get a shorter link here. Let's see.
Yeah, do the bit.ly or something.
Yeah, the link
Okay.
is very big. Let me see, short URL. Okay. Okay, here we go. So this link is the link directly to register for the free training.
Okay. I'm going to be getting it here. Oh, that is a short one. Okay. I'm copying, pasting that into a file here.
Yeah, and I have full control of that event. So it's not going to be like this, you know, sales pitch or any of that. It's literally going to be me talking about exactly what you can use so that when you leave that event, you can actually utilize some of the things I've taught you. And at the end, I'm going to talk about the offerings that if you want to learn more, you can. But it's just going to be a conversation, and I would say worth having, so that you can start to learn the work I've been doing and building up to. And these trainings are all available coming up in one is available right now, but the next one's in March. So you have some time to think about it, see if it's a good fit. And that's why I'm doing it right now as we get into, you know, the holidays.
Yeah.
And
Whoop. I'm going to mute somebody. Okay, there. Yeah, so that sounds fascinating. Well, you know, I'm going to be there. I'm going to wipe my calendar. This is definitely a priority for me. So thank you so much. And does anybody else have any questions for Jesse? I guess I have one more. Like, what's been the most rewarding experience for you so far? I don't know. I guess was it a person? Was it an event? Or are there just so many?
well, I think what's been the most rewarding in the last few weeks has been my work with Georgia and Fulton County Drug Court. That work is extremely rewarding because I'm getting to facilitate an all-day event with their team, and that is incredible. They don't have the time to come off of their job for a whole day to spend with me on Zoom, and they do it. And they do it because they're learning vulnerability. They're learning wholeness, and they already know how to do it. But how do you do it within teams? How do I do it with the participants who are members who are in the drug court? And I'm able to run a 7-hour or 6-hour event all day with the investigators, the case managers, the clinicians, the peer coaches, all of them together, all talking to each other. And it's really a sight to be had, for them to take time out of their day to learn these skills, because they're not coming in just to experience. They're coming in as a training to say, how do I bring this to the participants and my team members? How do I walk away feeling wholeness and vulnerable and safe? And because, you know, there's a lot of retention, not just in drug courts, but just all around. And so being able to bring some cohesiveness and trust and fun. We have a lot of fun during these events. So that just happened recently, and that's so rewarding to be able to come in. I live in New Hampshire, but they have the grace and humility to let me come into Georgia and facilitate, and it's just very, very rewarding for me. And I've been working with Georgia since 2019. It's been extremely life-changing for me.
How did you end up in Georgia? That's right. You do live in New Hampshire. Like, I was thinking that you were down in Georgia, but how did you make that connection?
Well, Georgia's one of the most, what's the word? They're ahead of, I would say, and someone could, who's listening to this can call me out. I would say they're ahead of every state in the country when it comes to providing services for people in addiction recovery for free. And that's through their Recovery Community Organization Network. They have RCOs, over 40, I believe, at this point, that provide free recovery services across the state of Georgia. And it's funded by the Georgia Council on Recovery. And so this is an organization that every state should have, in my opinion. Every state should have a council that is with people who are in and outside of recovery coming together to help provide services for the entire state and train leaders of how to help people for free. So that's how I came into them, because of my facilitation work. And their CEO, Neil Campbell, was in a training on appreciative inquiry. And this training, the author who ran the training is named Dr. Sherry Torres, who wrote a book, Conversations Worth Having. And this book, Conversations Worth Having, is, if you read that book, you will understand the basis of where I'm coming from with my work. And so Sherry says to Neil Campbell, have you heard of Jesse? He's doing this work in the addiction recovery space. She says, no. And then the rest is history. So in 2019, we had a call. They flew me out to Atlanta. I trained their team. And then I ran an event with the entire state of Georgia, all the RCO organizations, which are nonprofits, by the way. These are all nonprofits, all blood, sweat, and tears. There's not like, some of these organizations don't even get money. They just do it with their own money. And I got to come in and train, 300 to 400 people over the course of 2020 when COVID hit. And it was just a very, very powerful time for all of us, and a really difficult time. And so now we're still all friends, and they bring me in for more work. And that's how I started working with Fulton County Drug Court, is because of the Georgia Council on Recovery.
Is it something?
I could put the chat link. I could put the link in the
Okay.
chat so you can see that work they're doing in Georgia.
Okay, because I'm thinking that each mom, anybody listening to this, could contact their state's congressman or their community person and mention this program in the state of Georgia, and how, to model after that. Why don't more states do it then? Because it sounds like they've got a real good handle on this.
I think there's many reasons. There's political reasons. There's many reasons. So I think, the good news is we have a model. We have a model that's working in Georgia. And all we have to do is talk to Georgia and the Georgia Council on Recovery, and they will coach and consult any state to help them build what they have built. And how do I know that? I'm helping them to do that as they carry that out, because that vision is so profound and powerful. Every state, your state, has recovery community organizations. So if they could all come together and work together as one and get funding from state and federal, they would be able to get trainings from people like me, because that's how they get me to come in. They're getting federal money from SAMHSA to pay me to facilitate with them. It's a genius model. And many states have no idea this exists and this money exists. There's money out there that states could leverage that are called, this is the actual grant. Building Communities of Recovery is the name of the grant that your state can get, and bring someone like me or other trainers to train leaders to help people to live prosperous lives in addiction recovery. So this exists. Georgia figured it out, and we could copy and clone what they're doing, and have you'll see a lot of death prevented. You'll see a lot of overdose prevented by bringing in these types of people who are very passionate, the most passionate I've seen about recovery. So
that's amazing.
It's
that
really
grant, the grant was called Building Communities
of Recovery.
of Recovery. Okay, sorry, I'm writing this down.
Yeah. Also known as B Corps, B-C-O-R, B Corps grant from SAMHSA. And Georgia knows how to do this because their leaders are not only in recovery, they are entrepreneurial. So they know how to negotiate grants, and they get these people who know what they're doing, and they're using their strengths to go, yeah, let's bring in this millions of dollars and train these counties across Georgia to provide free recovery services to people who cannot afford to go to treatment centers, who cannot afford to get coaches. And so, and they have free coaches too. They have peer recovery coaching. So really check out Georgia Council on Recovery. It's really amazing what they're doing.
So, okay. Anybody else have questions? Oh my goodness, this is so good. Okay. Because one of my goals is to help moms heal so much that they can like lean into their purpose. Like, what is that? How are they equipped in their skill set? And sometimes they get stuck like, well, I don't know what that is, but I can see a few of my moms getting involved in this way because that's how they're built and geared. And so this has been really inspiring on so many different levels. Thank you so much, Jesse, for coming and being our guest today. I hope you'll come back again, and I will send out the link to anybody watching this if they want to come to your event on November 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So moms, you can stay on the call, and Jesse, if you want to go have your lunch before your next meeting, thanks again for being with us today.
Well, thank you all so much for being such great guests and inviting me here. And thank you, Michelle. And I want to say too, if you're questioning like, well, what about moms? Are moms going to be a great fit to come on the 29th to learn about these trainings? Yes, we have. I can actually put you in touch with moms who have sons and daughters they've lost to addiction, and that they have them still in addiction recovery, who've come through my trainings that are for what you're going to see on the 29th. So, there's people you can connect to. I've done that. So this is for moms too. This isn't just for people who are working in companies or want to work in sober living or treatments. It's for moms as well, and to learn how to facilitate and be that guide on the side, and bring that information. So thank you all.
I love it. Thank you. God bless, Jesse. Keep in touch. Bye. Bye-bye. So ladies, I am going to hop over to the Almighty Mom Tribe. I'm going to try. Stop live stream here. And moms, if you're watching this on Moms Letting Go, thank you for watching us today. And we're going to, I'll make sure that I put out the links to some of the things that Jesse mentioned, so that if you're interested, you can also attend. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me too, okay? Let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to our live streaming on the Almighty Mom Tribe. Hang on, let me see if I can do that. Okay, I think we're live there now. Thanks for your patience, and we're still recording. So actually, I'm going to hit stop recording because I don't want this in the